following the Bible timeline beginning to end, this is part 3, and all of these videos are in a playlist at the top of my page. Jacob, who God has renamed Israel, has 12 sons. And scripture makes it very clear that Joseph is his favorite. He even gave Joseph a special coat, which signified that not only was he his favorite, but he expected him to become the next leader of the family. This role is typically for the oldest son, and Joseph was not the oldest. And as you would expect, that made his brothers mad, and they resented him. Not only that, but God had spoke to Joseph a couple times through his dreams and told him that at some point his brothers would be bowing down to him. He shared this with his brothers, and as you would expect, that made them even angrier. So one day while Joseph was home with his dad and his brothers were out tending the flocks, hey, look, go check on your brothers, make sure they're okay. He goes to check on them, and as his brothers see him approaching, they think, hey, now's a good time. Let's just do away with him and his nonsense. We'll just tell Dad that he was devoured by a wild animal. But instead of doing away with him, they see a caravan coming through on their way to Egypt. Now, they're going over to Egypt to sell things. And they say, hey, let's just sell Joseph to these folks. So they do just that, but they take his coat, they dip it in animal's blood, take it back to their father, Israel, and is like, hey, is this your son's coat? Of course, Israel says, yes, it's his coat. Very sad because he assumes he has been killed. Now, once Joseph gets over to Egypt, he is sold to a man named Potiphar, who is an official of the Pharaoh. Pharaoh is the Egyptian king. While Joseph is with Potiphar, God is with him. He makes him prosper. Potiphar takes note of this and is like, you're head over my entire household. So Joseph is living pretty well, but as you would expect, there comes trouble. Joseph is handsome and very well built, and Potiphar, his master's wife, takes note of that. She tries multiple times to get with him. Joseph is like, I'm not having it. He eventually sets him up, and it does appear that Joseph tried to take advantage of her, which was not the case at all. But Potiphar, the master, of course, believes his wife's story and throws Joseph into prison. While Joseph was in prison, of course, God was with him there and showed him favor as well. And folks, again, took note of this. God gave him the gift of interpreting dreams, and Joseph exercised that a couple times while he was in prison. God showed him so much favor that everywhere Joseph went, people noticed that God was with him and blessed him, and people just put him in charge. He was in charge of the jail. After Joseph had been in jail for 2 years, Pharaoh had a dream that nobody could interpret. So he summoned Joseph. Pharaoh told Joseph the dream, and he interpreted it, giving God the absolute credit for the interpretation. There was going to be 7 years of abundance crop, followed by 7 years of famine. So Joseph made a recommendation to Pharaoh. Why don't we store up food for 7 years? And then for the next 7 years, when there's drought, famine, we will have what we need. And they did just that. So again, because of that, and because God was with Joseph, Pharaoh not only put him in charge of his household, but all of Egypt. Sure enough, there were 7 years of bumper crops. Everything was bumping. Everything was doing well. Then came the next 7 years. The famine hit. And this didn't only affect Egypt, but everybody. Even back in Canaan, where Jacob, Israel, and the rest of Joseph's brothers are. Israel, to his other sons, is like, hey, you've got to go to Egypt. Go to Pharaoh. Tell him what we need and see if he'll help us out. If they pack up, they do just that. Remember, Joseph is in charge, so his brothers don't realize it, but they come just as his dream predicted and bow before him. And it's like, this is what we have, this is what we need. They do not recognize Joseph as their brother, but Joseph recognizes them. Through a series of events, Joseph sends them back to Canaan to get their father Israel and to bring him back to Egypt. Israel is hesitant to leave, but after hearing from God through a dream, Israel packs up and they all go. They all live there and they all prosper. After 17 years, Israel dies. Joseph stayed there in Egypt with the rest of his brothers and his family. Just as he was about to die, he did as they all have done and passed it on to his brothers. He said, God will help you. He will get you out of this land. He will take you to the land that he promised Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That sounds like a happy ending, but we're nowhere near the end. Joseph and his brother's generation pass away. The Israelites, who are the descendants of Israel, God's people, those are the Israelites. They are fruitful and they multiply and they remain in Egypt, but they are enslaved. They become the slaves of these Egyptian people. And they need someone to save them. That's up next in part 4.